Leader Thune, thanks for joining us. Anyway,
thanks, Joe. Always to be with you.
Jumped the gun, started
no worries.
Like everybody knows who you are, which I think they do. When Senator Cruz was on yesterday, Senator Ted Cruz from the great state of Texas, I'll do everyone. He said there are factions in this administration. There are populist factions and there are less populist factions at this point. And the president wants to help, I think, working class people. Look at the tariffs, look at all these things. The case could be made that maybe some redistribution or some movement on who pays the lion's share of taxes, maybe you could reallocate some. Is this the right way to do it, to go back to 39.6 on high earners?
Well, I don't want to see taxes go up on anybody, Joe. I mean, we're all about lowering taxes, not raising taxes. But I do think the president, he's not a conventional president. People didn't vote for a conventional president, and I think his policies reflect that. And I think the people around him understand what he's trying to achieve here. And that is, if you look at what he's proposing, there's particular emphasis on working Americans. Hence, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, trying to lower taxes on people who are on Social Security. The people who are out there trying to make a living in this country. And I think a lot of his tax policies will reflect that. All these things that are being proposed right now, and of course this is going to originate, this all starts in the House of Representatives, they're going to have to figure out how to dial this and to make it fit within the parameters that are out there. The one thing you want to make sure you do is on the business side, make sure that those, bonus depreciation, interest deductibility, R&D expensing, the president's proposed expensing for factories, for domestic manufacturing, which would be very stimulative, get growth in the economy. And that was the whole goal in 2017, lower rates, faster cost recovery, and I think it worked. And I think that's what we want to do now. And I think it's important that those provisions at least be made permanent so that businesses can plan around them.
My main problem was that so many businesses, there's only 5% of businesses are C Corps. So
right.
If you raise the personal rate back to 39.6, you're hitting all the small businesses, or many of the small businesses. But if you were, is it possible to exempt small businesses from a raise in the top rate? If you could do that, I, like you, would be less.
Well, and if you do, what does that mean for the revenue that you bring in as a result? How much money do you?
When you're all the way up at $2.5 million instead of, when they lowered that tops rate, what was the top rate, 300,000 or something? Yeah. I mean, now we're all the way up to 2.5, 5 for joint.
Yeah, I've seen 2.5 and 5. I've seen 5 and 10. I've seen different proposals out there, but I do think that you'd have, and they're talking about if they this were to happen, carving out pass-through businesses. As you point out, they are. They're 96% of the businesses in this country. The one thing, of course, pass-throughs want is they want to keep their 199A deduction, the 20% deduction that was written into the 2017 bill. But as you look at what's currently in law, all of it expiring at the end of the year, on the business side, what you want is growth. You want pro-growth policies. When the economy is growing and expanding, it's creating better-paying jobs. People are making money, taking realizations, and paying taxes. And tax revenue goes up and goes up dramatically. So on the business side, that's what you want to see. On the individual side, I think what the president's trying to achieve, again, is to help working Americans who are out there every day trying to just take care of their families.
Senator, what you're talking about is extending the current tax cuts. So we're already living in a world where these lower tax rates are in place for the most part. You're talking about some new add-ons that go to help working Americans. But the growth that you're going to see from that, from just extending it, is probably going to be limited to some extent because we're already living under that tax regime. And second of all, you have a lot of people in your party who are very concerned about the deficit getting blown out. We're already in a situation where we're spending 7 percentage points more than we're taking in revenue. Yeah. What happens if you lower the tax money that you're taking in? And again, you want to help working Americans, but that's where the money is too, because that's where the broad portions of the population are. How do you manage all of that and not look like you're blowing out the deficit even further? Right,
and I think the answer to that, Becky, is if you look at what is being proposed, and what I would argue is the thing that's different is permanence. If you do this on a permanent basis, Tax Foundation, for example, says you get another 1.8% GDP growth out of that, and that's a huge impact on government revenues. So you get more growth, you get more revenues. For every 1% increase in gross domestic product, the standard rule of thumb is about $3 trillion in additional tax revenue. So you've got to have pro-growth policies to deal with deficits and debt, and then you've also got to deal with restraining federal spending. which is the other objective or one of the many objectives in this bill that we're working on.
But you can only do so much in the skinny budget where you don't deal with some of the long-term legacy issues like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
And Social Security is not eligible under the law for reconciliation.
You can do so much with Medicaid.
President's taken Medicare off the table, but if you look at where the spending is, general fund spending, because both Medicare and Social Security have payroll taxes. About half of Medicare is general fund, about half is payroll tax, and most of Social Security is payroll tax revenue coming in. But net of payroll taxes, the big driver of federal spending is Medicaid. Yep. And a lot of that's because the states have figured out how to game it. And when you did the expansion,
the states were suggested and incentivized.
They were incentivized to do it.
Obamacare, it's out of control, and that's where the money is.
But a lot of those are red states where many voters are on those rolls.
There are red states for sure, but you take a state like New York or California, they have really figured out how to game this. You know, they do things like provider taxes that they use to leverage to get more federal revenue, federal money coming in, then rebate the taxes to the providers. There are a lot of games that are played, and but I think there are things that most people agree on that are reforms like work requirements. I think that's something that generally, not just Republicans, but I think most people say makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Joe has used this statistic pretty frequently from the Wall Street Journal earlier, that there are $10 for able-bodied men versus $1.50 for women and disabled.
Pregnant women and disabled. There are so many able-bodied people that don't. There are no work requirements that are gaming the Medicaid. But the rap is that Republicans don't have the intestinal fortitude to face the Democrats that are going to demagogue it and say you're cutting Medicaid and pushing, once again, you're pushing grandmother off a cliff in her wheelchair. That's what you're going to hear.
Yeah, and they are going to demagogue it. I mean, that's what they do. And, when they had unified control of the government, House, Senate, and White House, they did 2 reconciliation bills, which increased spending by $3 trillion. And we have now, for only the 5th time in the last century, unified control of the government, House, Senate, and White House. And by the way, 4 of the 5 times we've had it's only lasted 2 years. So you really have to maximize your opportunity. But we have a chance to do something meaningful about spending and about this $38 trillion debt, which is not sustainable. And we've got to start slowing the growth of spending. And you can do that without hurting beneficiaries. And I think work requirements is a good example of that. That saves you, over $100 billion. And there are some other reforms in Medicaid that I think you do as well. But you got to look at other areas of the budget and try and find let's start bending the curve down. You start bending the curve down, you get growth in the economy, more revenue coming in that way, and pretty soon this thing starts to look manageable. And I think that's what this exercise and process ought to be about. And we ought to use the opportunity we have in front of us to do something meaningful to get the country on a more sustainable fiscal path.
How often do you talk to the Speaker?
All the time.
Is he going to go along with this raising the higher rate, you think? I heard he was pushing back. And
yeah, I mean, I don't like.
President sounds meh. I don't,
and I'm not saying I don't think anybody's endorsing that at this point, Joe. But I do think
I thought it was coming.
As they look at this, there are decisions that have to be made about how to accommodate some of the things the president wants to do, some of the new things, and how to accommodate making some of these policies permanent. And I think, frankly, as I mentioned earlier, permanence is something that the economy would pick up on and say, this is pro-growth. This will create jobs and generate growth in the economy.
So, Senator, what I'm hearing from you is you are going to go after the idea of making the existing cuts permanent before you are going to take on the new promises that the president made on the campaign trail to give back taxes for tips. All of those things would be things you'd give up before you would give up the permanence of the 2017 tax bill?
Well, there are interactions there. And the House doesn't have as much headroom because of the way they crafted their budget process as we do in the Senate.
The way they crafted their majority?
Well, I mean, and look, I mean, the bottom line is, and I have great sympathy for the Speaker, and I think he has sympathy for us. He has to get 218, we've got to get 51. And that's the math. And so ultimately it's about that. And yes, I would like permanence, but yes, we need to figure out a way to accommodate some of the things the president wants to do. Now, some of these policies are dialable, and you can tweak and dial.
Meaning salt, you dial down.
He's got to fit it within the House Ways and Means Committee when they mark this up, has to fit it within the parameters that their budget resolution allows for. And when it comes over to the Senate, we'll have a fresh look at it. And
can you just lay out what the big sticking points are between the two? What are the issues that you're spending the most time on?
Well, I think that the question of permanence, particularly on the business tax extenders, There are some things on the
That's harder to
side.
get through the House than it would be to get through the Senate?
I believe it is, simply because they don't have as much headroom to work with. I think there are issues that are, for example, the salt tax,
Right.
or the salt deduction is something that is not, that's predominantly a House issue.
They want it, you don't.
And there's some people in the Senate who care about it, but it's just not, it's not an issue that drives. And, but in the House it is. So you got to figure out how to weigh it.
I got 3 questions for you. Carried interest, what are you going to do?
Well, I mean, I'm not a fan of taxing carried interest. And, but I know, again, that's something that's
Because?
has been talked about. Well, I think these are the people that are out there investing and creating jobs. And I think that there's a...
And you want to give those people a tax deduction?
Well, they already have. They pay at the capital gains rate as opposed to...
Right. No, I'm saying you believe that the people in the private equity industry that are in that business, because it's not the investor, it's not their money, they're the allocators, you believe need an incentive to do what they do, otherwise they wouldn't do it?
I think they're the ones that are going out there and getting the deals.
But
to your point, I mean, this is an issue that's one of many on the table.
Right.
And the president has some views on this, and the House, the Speaker, I think, and some of his folks have some views on this. But
I'm just curious why you think that, though.
Well, I mean, I think that, again, you would, because...
Is there any other industry in the world that you think should have that incentive?
Well, I think that paying capital gains tax rate on the carry versus paying at the individual rate is something. If you're an investor, if you're a passive investor, you're paying the capital gains tax rate. The people who are going out and getting the deals also sometimes have a piece of the deal,
right,
and they get a carry on that. And so all that simply means is they're going to pay at the capital gains tax rate.
That's how they get paid, though.
That is how they get paid.
But what about people who get paid a commission or get paid a bonus every year?
Well, I mean, those are people who they have their own deals. I mean,
but it can't be constructed the same way, right? A banker or a real estate agent, do a real estate agent, or just anybody who gets a commission. Here we are talking about, we think that people who are waitresses should have lower tax rates. Teachers can't get that rate. Most people can't get that rate. And so what I'm trying to understand is that's how they get paid. That is their compensation. It's the only way they get compensated.
Do you think the industry would be... The argument is the industry is such a great thing for the country, and we're the leaders.
Would that put a damper... It's the only industry that we incentivize.
I know, but would it put a damper on what is a great... kill the goose that lays the golden egg?
It drives a ton of investment.
But can I ask a question when you say it drives a ton of investment?
Creates better paying jobs and higher wages for the very people that you're talking about.
But what I don't...
that.
Yeah, but what I don't...
We want growth in the economy.
I understand, but what I don't totally understand about this is the money, the investor, isn't changed. The investor is a pension fund or an endowment or a wealthy person who's paying the carried interest, right? They're getting the capital gains rate. It doesn't change whether they invest their money or not. We're talking about the people who are allocating. People who are basically managing other people's money, you believe should actually get a lower rate because of what they do for a living. It's a very specialized job that nobody else could either do or would otherwise want to have because it doesn't get paid enough.
We've been talking about this for years.
No, I know, but
it is a longer conversation.
It is, and listen, I can argue this both ways, okay?
Okay.
But I'm just saying, I think the incentive there, these are people who are going out there making investments, finding the deals, and helping grow the economy. Now, whether or not they ought to be at the capital gains rate, that's a debatable point.
It's a budget. My one other budget question, it's a USAID question as it relates to Doge. I just was seeing this yesterday. I don't know if you saw. Bill Gates came out yesterday and said that the removal of USAID is, quote, killing the world's poorest children, and says that effectively 2 million lives will be at stake because of those, the change in what Doge has done. So my question to you is, as somebody who I think cares about people's lives, 2 million lives. If that's true, and I have no reason not to believe it, do you have any ambition to change the way USAID is spending money?
Well, I would argue that not every USAID program is created equally, and that's why you have to be selective and targeted when you figure out where do we want to find savings. I think every one of these government programs has waste, fraud, and abuse in it. And that's why the scrub is long overdue. Now, that needs to be done in a way that evaluates what's mission critical and what's not. And I think that's why you want to have agency heads and department heads in place, and why we move so quickly to get them confirmed and in those positions so they can discriminate and make those decisions. But clearly there are programs that are impactful in changing the lives and, frankly, I would argue have national security implications for the United States.
No. All right, Senator.
Thank you.
Leader, thank you for all your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Great with you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Friday.